Good morning, gentlemen. This video is going to be about how to set up a compressor to use as an auto ducking system to drop the level of music when people are talking on a microphone. This is a bit of a revelation. I didn't know you could do this with compressors up until now, and I've been doing quite a lot of gigs at sporting events where commentating is going on and we need to drop the level of the stereo source, i.e. the backing music, for someone to talk on the microphone. And it is a bit of a pain in the arse doing it, manually that is, but now we have set the compressor up to do it automatically as an auto duck or an auto talkover system, whatever you want to call it, or keying as the professionals call it in the music world. The majority of mixing desks actually come with a manual talkover button. If the camera will focus in. There we go. We have a manual talkover button on here, and what this does, obviously for those of you that don't know, is we press this and it drops the level of all the stereo sources on the desk. And we release it and it brings the stereo levels back up again. So it's a good manual system to save somebody having to do this to make an announcement and put it back up again. But it's a bit of a pain in the arse. If it's all right for making an announcement, I can press this. Last orders at the bar, guys. Last orders at the bar, and then switch it off. It's all right for making one or two announcements when you're DJing. But if somebody's commentating, or if you're doing, as I say, sporting events are a classic case. If people are commentating on the events going on, you don't want to have to keep pressing this all the time when somebody makes an announcement. And it's not the best, really. It's quite abrupt. It comes in, it just drops the levels instantly. As soon as you release it, fires the levels back up again. So there's no smoothness in it at all. It's quite rough and ready, but it's handy enough. But as I say, we're going to show you how to connect up the Alesis compressor as to how to set up an automatic ducking system. This compressor is an Alesis 3630 compressor. I do like this. It's not really meant for touring use. I think it's more of a studio use compressor, but it's nice enough in my rig and it works well and it sounds good, so we'll stick with it. I'm not sure whether you can do this on all compressors. This has a sidechain connection on them, but this one certainly does, and I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. But first, let me give you a little demonstration. I'm going to play some music here on the DJ controller. I'll crank the level up a bit. You can hear it. And then we just turn the level up on the PA. That's better. So you can see the music's playing, and the music's coming through the compressor as well. And watch what happens when I speak in the microphone. I'm going to speak on the microphone. 1, 2, testing, 1, 2, 1, 2, testing, testing. Now I do apologise if there's a bit of a delay on the results, guys. It's being fed through a home cinema system, and there's a bit of a delay on the home theatre processing equipment, so there might be a bit of a delay on the camera. But you can see quite nicely when I talk on the microphone it drops the level. I'll do that again just so you can see. So we've got a stereo source coming in here, stereo source here. I'll speak on the microphone and watch what happens. 1, 2, testing, 1, 2, testing, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now let me just turn the music off and I'll explain exactly what's going on. I'll explain exactly what's going on by using the instruction manual on here, and I do have a copy of the instruction manual somewhere. Where's it gone? There we go, and I believe it is down here. Where's it gone? The schematics. I wanted to show you the block diagram. Here we go. Let's see the block diagram of the compressor as to how exactly this works. And now what's going on in the back here? In a normal compressor, we feed in, this is the input for channel A and the input for channel B here. And our stereo signal from the DJ controller or CD player, whatever you choose to use, is coming in here. And usually it would come down here, and this is the this goes towards the output. This is the output of the machine here. This little tap here goes through here, through these connections, and this is what goes to the trigger on the front. So this is the circuitry that controls that are on the front controls here. So this goes off to set the threshold and the ratio and all this. But this is the trigger for it here. This splits off. This is the trigger, and this is the output. So effectively, it's like a feedback loop. Whatever comes in here triggers it, but it also affects it. And by using the sidechain insert that we've got here, we can trigger it using the microphone to drop the level of the stereo source. So I don't know if you can make that out on the camera, but when we plug a audio jack into here, a 1/4" jack, it breaks these two connections on the ring and the sleeve. So our audio jack comes in here, it disconnects these two sides, then we can feed in on the tip, which then goes into the triggering system. And the ring is a send out. We don't need to use the send out, because all it's going to do is send the original signal back out again. We don't need to use that, so we're just going to feed in with the microphone on the tip, and the microphone then is used to trigger the compressor, the compression, but the compression occurs on the stereo source, which is this side. And the same again for channel B. We have the because it's a stereo source, obviously left and right, we have the stereo couple button pressed, and we also have to have a blanking plug inserted into this to disconnect the trigger from the original stereo source. We don't need the trigger, so we put a blanking plug in here, but we're going to come on to that in a minute. That's just how the internals of the thing work. I've got a just close that a second. I have a it says no, not closing. Open my Serato back up again. There we go. I have a diagram that I've drawn at no expense to show you exactly how this is connected. But we can see here, if I speak on the microphone again, just without any music, you can see that the gain reduction kicks in. 1, 2, testing, 1, 2, 1, 2. So the gain reduction, the compressor isn't affecting the microphone. All I'm doing is using the microphone to operate the trigger side, and the compression occurs on the stereo source. 1, 2, testing, 1, 2, 1, 2. So let me show you the diagram as to how I've connected it. Now, I've spent no expense doing this diagram. You can tell I'm a qualified artist just by the quality of this. Not. So what I've got on my setup at the moment, you'll have to excuse the freehand of the camera, it's a bit annoying, I know. I've got my DJing controller here, which feeds in, the stereo output of the DJing controller feeds in to the left and the right of the compressor. This is our compressor here, this is our mixer here. So it feeds into the left and it feeds into the right. The outputs are also the same. We've got the output left and output right of the compressor feeding back into the input of the mixer. So that's normal. So if ignoring the sidechain loop here, if we wanted to use a compressor on the DJ controller to either as a noise gate or as a limiter, this is exactly how we would connect it up. We have the stereo inputs and the stereo outputs going straight into the normal channel 1 of the mixer. However, what we're going to do, we're going to cheat. The magic happens on the mixing console. Here we have our microphone plugged into mic 1, and I'm just going to get something to point here, guys. I need something to point. Let me have my little pointer. Our microphone feeds in here on channel 1. It mixes the signal with the signal from the music, and it outputs it here onto the master bus and the master output to the amplifier rack. And that's what would normally happen. But what we're going to do, we're going to use the effects send part of the mixer to grab this microphone signal before it's been mixed in with the stereo source. We want the pure microphone signal going down here, so it's the microphone's gone through the preamplifier. Remember there's a preamplifier built into the mixer for each microphone. It's gone through the preamplifier, comes out onto the effects bus inside the mixer, goes into the effects send part of the system, and we're sending the microphone signal out on the effects send here. So this is not, as I said before, this is not the master output. This is purely microphone signal here. The microphone signal then travels down this TS cable tip sleeve. There's no ring on it. It's a mono cable, and it goes into the sidechain insert on channel A. We also have our blanking plug on channel B here. And what this does, this is, as I said before, this allows the compressor to trigger on the microphone, but it affects the stereo source here. So when it sees the microphone kicking, and if somebody grabs the microphone to make an announcement, the compressor does what it's designed to do. It drops the level, but it doesn't drop the level of the microphone, it drops the level of the main in and out on the compressor, the stereo source. The same with channel B here. We also have to have the stereo couple button pressed to couple both channels, and we have a blank connector plug in here with nothing connected to it, just to disconnect the circuitry from triggering on the main input here. We want it to trigger with the microphone. So that's pretty much how it works. It's nothing special. We have to have it splitting in the desk. Obviously, we still need the microphone. So effectively, the microphone isn't affected by the compressor. Of course, we still have to have a compressor in the amplifier rack. Should somebody get a bit carried away with the microphone, I like to have a compressor in here just to act as a limiter in case somebody gets a bit carried away with the microphone. More advanced desks will have sidechain inserts on the mixer itself, so we can actually have a compressor for the microphone on its own. But this is just how to use an auto ducking system, how to configure it for an auto talkover. So the main microphone signal still comes through the desk, and it still gets mixed with the stereo source together here. It still gets output, still gets to go to the main output. All we're doing is we're using the effects bus inside here, the effects unit, to send the microphone signal out of the mixer and in to the sidechain insert of the compressor. I would show you how that's connected on here, but as you can see, my rack is quite well populated, and it does take a bit of getting in there. I don't particularly want to have to unscrew it to show you, but what's happening is the output of the DJ controller here is feeding in to the input of the stereo inputs of the compressor. The outputs of the compressor are then feeding in to the input of my main audio mixer, and the effects sign here is what I'm using to pump the microphone signal into the compressor to use as a trigger. So we can see here we have the effects sign, and it's set to the main microphone. And if I don't want to use the auto ducking system, if I don't want to use it, if I just want to purely talk, I can simply switch that to the off position here, and effectively the auto ducking is disabled. And to switch it back on, I can switch it to the main mic, or I can use the auxiliary mic if I want the auto duck to apply on that. But it's a very good system. I do like it. For years I've been plagued with doing gigs for sporting events and having people yell down the microphone, having to drop the level manually, or have to bring it back up again. It really is a pain in the arse. This is how professional, I imagine this is how professional radio broadcasting do it.